about fire safety in school. They do an outstanding job there.
I firmly agree that man's home is his castle, and it really steps on constitutional rights of whether a person can barge into your home and inspect things. Public buildings that are not tied to your home, I think, should absolutely be inspected. And as Stephen said, they need to pass that before they can continue with having occupancy of anybody in that building. We cannot, as a society, trust that everybody is going to build everything that is going to be safe. People cut corners if they can. I mean, it's human nature to get as much profit out of a project as you can get. When it comes to our homes, of course, I think, you know, we ourselves sit back and say, you know, this is not acceptable. And if we're building a house and we see a contractor making shortcuts or doing something that in our eyes might be dangerous or wrong, I mean, we stand up and say so. But when it comes to public buildings, I think it is absolutely critical that the fire department have a say-so, a first line say-so in what relates to fire safety. You know, there's been so many instances where nightclubs and restaurants have caught on fire and people have killed themselves trying to get out. And you know, I think so. You know, the value that a good fire department adds to the living ability of all of us is critical. And you know, I want to say again, from what I've seen of this department, it's a wonderful, wonderful department and does a lot with very little. One other thing, though, is that it? All right.
Can you just read it again real quick? It's regarding personal houses.
Yeah, the question is, what home inspection programs or home improvement programs help to lower the number of home fires?
Okay. So all this information is available to the fire department, and I do hope if anyone does have any questions, they go down and obtain this. In-home sprinkler systems, probably one of the biggest safety programs that are out there for rural houses, even urban houses. Protect house if there's a small fire, keep it confined, minimize the damage. Also helps in the rural setting so that if we don't have 20,000 gallons of water to get up there to put the fire out because it's so large, it's kept at a small size because the sprinkler system has activated and takes care of that. Very, very good program. The other program that's out there is just access to your property. I think everyone here is rural. Is your driveway wide enough? Can they get a fire engine down there? Can an ambulance or fire engine turn around down at the end? Does anyone know how big a fire engine is? I mean, it's not your Ford pickup and it's not your Honda Civic that's going down there to turn around. That being said, during the wildfire season, they got to be able to get out too. So defensible space around your property, defensible space around the driveway to be able to get in and out. Those are all programs that are out there for the house itself. Roofing, when you put in shingles on a roof that are wood shake, you know, you're probably going to be looking at potential for ember fires or roof fires from embers from wildfire or from chimney fires. There's other options out there. There's options that look exactly like wood shake. So all that stuff's out there at the fire department. And then the last thing I would say is we do have a review process. I would really like to see, and this is a state process or a different issue, but I would really like to see fire district have more input at the review process for housing developments, egress into these, widths of streets, all that process. So that's it.
Thank you. And this will be our last question of the evening, and going back down to Stephen here. Insurance companies are well aware of how local fire districts distribute their resources throughout their district, and that influences fire insurance rates that district residents have to pay. If you were elected to the Molalla Fire Board, would you recommend any changes to how the district distributes its resources?
Wow. That's a good question. Kind of ironic, I just got new homeowners insurance for my house. Fortunately, well, actually, I went with a different company and it actually went down. Fortunately, I live inside the city. The fire hydrant is the distance of this table away from my house, and it's less than a mile. So, as far as in the city goes, I've been educated that insurance rates have actually gone down for the inside the city because of the water improvements, the aggressiveness of the fire department when new streets, when things are put in. Hey, we need fire extinguisher there. We need this here and there. And so the rates for the core has gone down. Now, as we get away from the core of the city, unfortunately, the rates have either stayed the same or gone up. What we can do to reduce the rural rates is Sawtelle, Molino. That's about the best we can do. Now that's going to be money. There is other things where you could do where you could get water up there at a significant flow rate. And again, we're getting into the weeds in my science of how much a flow rate you would actually need to get that. And that costs a lot of money, from what I've been told. So one of the things I would do as a board member is to attempt to possibly see about staffing those rural stations that would lower the insurance rate because there would be manned people there. And again, I'm not educated enough right this second to know what the breakdown is. I know that would lower the rural rates, however.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think in some of the minutes that I saw, they were actually talking about closing down the Sawtelle station because there wasn't staffing and no volunteers out there. This boils down again to money. I think as our county grows, as our population grows, as our people get older, we need to step back and ask ourselves, are we paying the right amount? Brian over here, I believe it was Brian, said that we pay half of what are paid in other places. It's actually, we pay a third, 1/3 of what the average is across the district. Now, is that a fair price to pay? I don't think so. I mean, I would be willing to pay more money to have a staffed station out in Sawtelle, because we live out that direction. And you know, the consequences of being in a rural area without a close fire support, without someone staffing that support, is disastrous. And I think most of us live in rural areas. And the thought of not having a resource like the Sawtelle station is frightening. And, okay, that's my money. So, I think that if the insurance companies know that a station like that's gonna close, then the insurance rates in that area will go up.
I think most folks that live rural understand that resources are going to be limited to get to them. I think they understand that it's going to cost a little bit more to live out there because it's just not feasible to cover every inch of this district with a resource that's going to get there in 3 to 5 minutes. So that being said, it's not economically feasible for this fire district to even ask its owners or the taxpayers to staff to the level that the insurance company is going to want at these remote stations and to cover the entire district so that everyone has protected fire insurance and a low rate. It's just not cost effective. And if we do that, we're chasing the insurance companies around and following their mandates instead of doing what's best for our taxpayers with the resources that we have. I think the district, we've kind of asked the chief to guide us a little bit and tell us where resources are needed, what resources are needed there. But to put a 4-person company at Sawtelle where there's 10 calls a year with an engine and a tender and all the resources, the millions of dollars it would take to do that, it just doesn't, we wouldn't recoup it at all. That's not to say, though, that we don't need a water tender up there. We don't need volunteer support up there. We don't need the community involvement to help their neighbors out in those areas. But financially, we just can't staff to a level to actually lower the insurance enough to make it equitable for everyone. And so we have to look at what's going to be the biggest bang for our buck. And the best thing that I've seen so far is the city of Molalla drop to a 4 in the city limits. And I know rural, that doesn't help a whole lot, but that's phenomenal for the city.
Read the question one more time, if you have it.
Yeah, I have it. Yeah, I couldn't remember that one off the top of my head. Insurance companies are well aware that how local fire districts distribute their resources throughout the district, and that influences the fire insurance rates that district residents have to pay. If you were elected to the Molalla Fire Board, would you recommend any changes to how the district distributes its resources?
I would love to redistribute resources if we had the resources and staff the Molino station, you know, along Highway 213, and to be able to come into the city. I would love to be able to staff Sawtell Fire Station, but cost-wise, we haven't been able to do it. We've went to the voters a couple different times, and each time voters have said no. We don't want to give any more money, and that's disappointing, because you know you would love to be able to staff a fire engine in the fire district, but you can't. If we had that money, I would love to redistribute resources, but we don't have the resources. And the recent reclassification of the city, lowering some rates in the city is great. But like Mike was saying, you know, then again, out in the rural area, it's really difficult to get people out there in any timely manner, and water out in that area in any timely manner, when we have old water tenders and not enough water tenders to, you know, get the water out there, because there's no hydrants out in those areas. So I wish we had the money. We don't. We're working on that, and that's it.
Well, thank you guys. That concludes the section about the fire district. We appreciate you guys showing up.